Social media uncensored. We're delving into a topic that's become inseparable from our daily lives, and that's the IG, the Instagram, the Facebook, the TikTok, social media across the board, and discussing its profound impact on our mental health. We'll also explore how constant connectivity affects our well being. And it's a crucial discussion because social media has transformed how we communicate and perceive ourselves, but it's also brought out new challenges. And studies now show that a prolonged use can contribute to feelings of anxiety, depression, and even isolation. So, do you ever experience these feelings, Wendy, even as an adult?
Not on a normal basis, but I can tend to experience the feelings. Just you have to remind yourself to take a step back and maybe sometimes take a step away and get regrounded and really remember the positive things that social media and the social platforms are for, as far as business
Mhm.
wise. So, what about you, Sandy? Do
Yeah,
you
I
ever
mean,
experience that?
I feel like I feel like I've always had a positive experience with it, although I've put boundaries in place. So I don't go on social after 4 when I'm with my kiddos. I try and be really strategic just on how my day is planning. I have to say, summer has been quite a wild, wild west in our house because I've had to shift my working hours to afternoon hours and just trying to get into the new groove and flow of a summer schedule. So once I get that down, I'll have those boundaries and like schedule in place. But for the most part, I like to be off social by 4 p.m. and then spend that time with my family, my kids, my husband, and be really intentional about quality time offline.
Those are great guidelines, and those are some really great tips, Sandy. Just having a time where you dedicate to social media, I think that's a really huge tip that many of us could use.
Yeah, well, hopefully it helps some of our viewers out there. And we're going to dive in here a little bit more because I know that I hear a lot about the pressure to present this curated version of ourselves online can lead to some feeling this distorted sense of reality. And it's important to recognize how scrolling through, like that endless scroll on our feeds can affect our mood and our self esteem. And I'll even say for me, if I find myself getting short with my kids because I'm on social, I'm like, okay, it's time to get off. But as we dive deeper into this topic, what are some of the specific psychological effects, Wendy, you've noticed among even your peers, your kids, or maybe even clients when it comes to social media?
I think most, more than anything, is the feeling of having to keep up, whether it's in
Mhm.
business, whether it's in personal life, all the things, whether it's travel, but the feeling of having to keep up, I think puts a lot of pressure. And psychologically, you're affected because you're asking yourself, why am I doing enough? Why am I not doing
Mhm.
this? And so
Yeah.
I think that can really take a toll on someone. Um, how about you, Sandy? Do you see a psychological effect? I know you work a lot closely with clients and coaching.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it really depends on the boundaries you put in place. I mean, one of the things my husband said to me was use social media, don't let it use you. And I think of that every time that I'm like on it too much or I'm getting distracted and finding myself scrolling when I shouldn't be. So I think that it's important we have those boundaries, but I think everybody gets sucked into that trap. I don't think any of us are immune to it because it's so readily available. And I think that we will be our biggest either asset or liability in this, whether how much we are using it for our own benefit versus letting it use us. And research indicates that social media triggers dopamine releases in the brain, creating a cycle of reward and reinforcement. This can lead to behaviors that resemble addiction, such as feeling withdrawal symptoms when you're not online. I feel like I felt that before. I felt like, that need. I definitely felt that dopamine hit, like when I get on and when I use it. So, Wendy, what are some of the ways you try to avoid falling into this social media rat race?
Well, I think I take it back to everything that you already said, just setting boundaries, and knowing how much time to spend on it and really knowing the difference of what's really real and what
Mhm.
really you can apply to your life and knowing how to separate those because yeah, it can get really, it could really put pressure on a person.
Yeah. And, they even say, psychologists are saying, don't let your kids on there before they're like 14 or 15 years old because of these addictive behaviors. So, I mean, look, if we struggle as adults, how do we expect our kids to be able to manage it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. Well, it's important to prioritize self-care and self-awareness. So take regular breaks, engage in offline activities that bring you joy, and seek support if you feel your social media use is impacting your well-being or relationships.
Yes, Sandy, finding a balance that works for you, prioritizing real life connections, and being mindful of your digital habits can lead to a happier, more fulfilling experience, both online and offline. So stay tuned, Connect family, because coming up, we have a truly exceptional guest joining us, Irina Safarova. If you're ready to reboot your life, this is a segment you're not going to want to miss.